very good morning to you, and I hope I find you very, very well on what is here in Manchester a typical summer day in Manchester, which means complete grey skies with lots and lots of rain. So, you know, the trend is as usual. Firstly, apologies. Been away for a while. The old guard will know why. You new guys and girls who've relatively recently joined, ill health tracks me down occasionally and knocks me out. However, I'm back now, feeling a bit better, so I thought, well, I'll make one of these. Now, the downside to being ill, of course, is being ill. There's nothing you do about that. But the good side of being ill is that you tend to do nothing, so it gives you time to catch up on what interests me, certainly on YouTube, and that is a wide variance of things. But one of the things I did trip across, which is quite an old video now, and I say quite old because it's been about a month, I think, is the subject of replica watches. And this video was from our friend Mr. Hunter, and he was talking about his opinion on replicas, which was quickly followed, I think, by Matt Stevens making a video regarding that. So what I thought I would do is kind of just ask a question of everyone, because I think it's quite a salient question and a very, very important one for us all to consider when you get the initial knee-jerk reaction out of the way of the word replica when it applies to a watch. Now, I've kind of tackled this subject a couple of times, this being the second one of the couple. My first one was a video which I think was probably about 18 months, maybe even 2 years ago now. And I'll try and track it down on kind of my files, and I'll leave the link down below to let you have a look at it. Because I think it still, for me, after all this time, still feels quite important, and I've not come across anyone who I've spoken to, met, who has a very strong opinion on replica watches. But the question I asked in that video was, do they actually have a geographical stroke financial place in our collection? And that's as much as I'm going to allude to that video, because by all means have a look at it, and then what you could do if you want to is incorporate your answer to this video with the answer to that video and see whether we can come to some form of agreement on this. So let's get back to this one. Replica watches seems to have a very, very negative connotation where we as the wristwatch collecting community are concerned. So whenever I speak to somebody about it, they always say, well, you know, you shouldn't buy a replica because it's not the real thing. Well, the clue's in the name, replica. Secondly, they will always say, you know, well, you know, the problem is that the industries that make these things launder the money through and for criminal purposes. Now, you can't really argue with that, because that's actually a very, very strong argument, because quite a lot of the time it's true. But let me ask this question. Now, I'm fortunate to a certain extent in a way that I don't smoke and I don't drink. But as we're aware, there are counterfeit booze out there. You see a lot of cheap counterfeit, certainly vodka, coming in to the country, being smuggled in. And you do see counterfeit cigarettes and that kind of thing. And I would have thought there are, you know, counterfeit tobaccos and cigars and that kind of thing coming in. But people buy those. Now, as far as I can see, there is no difference between a replica watch and a counterfeit something else. So if you have ever bought counterfeit vodka, for instance, or counterfeit branded cigarettes or tobacco or whatever it is, because you enjoy a drink or you have a habit that means you need to smoke. What is the difference between those two things? Because I had a conversation with somebody probably about 18 months or so ago where they were trying to justify what the difference was, and I could actually see no difference. In fact, from my point of view, and I know it's quite a biased point of view because I do neither of these things, replica watches don't damage your health in any way, whereas replica booze or tobacco products do, because you never know what's in there. Because you hear these stories of, you know, hard drugs, etc., being cut with other stuff. Well, you don't naturally know what's in the cigarettes or cigars or tobacco or whatever it is that you're putting into your body. So for me, replica watches win out immediately. And the other point is, when people say, well, you shouldn't have one because it's not the real thing, I agree totally that it's not the real thing. But there are people out there who will never, ever be able to afford the real thing. Now, do you want to take the line that nobody should ever be able to live out their fantasy by having something that looks like the real thing? Is that what we as a community are asking? Let me give you a car analogy. We always like car analogies in watch videos, so I'll give you one. I'm not a great Porsche fan, but the Porsche that I do like is an older one, and it's the Speedster. Yeah, I think it's the model that Steve McQueen killed himself in, or whatever it is. Well, there are a number of companies, certainly in the UK and I would guess around the world, who do a replica one of those. And I think it is gorgeous because it looks like the Speedster. It has a VW engine in the back, so it sounds like a Speedster. But it's a tenth of the price, 25 grand, whatever. So, if in the real world I would love a Porsche Speedster, which I would, don't get me wrong, but I know full well that I will never ever have that kind of money to buy that car. Is it wrong for me to aspire to own that car, but knowing full well in the real world I'll never be able to afford one? Is everybody saying that it's wrong for me to have a replica car? Now, I know I'm ignoring the elephant in the room here, that a lot of replica car companies are not funding criminal activity. That's fine. But I still go back to the Rolex, the replica watches and replica booze and tobacco products. People do use those on a regular basis. So what is it that's so wrong? What is it that is so wrong with people who have an aspiration to own something? And it may not even be the name. It might be that they love a particular style of watch, which nobody does homage to, because not every watch has a homage piece. So the only way to get something that looks and feels like it is to buy a replica from one of the Chinese makers. So let me know. Let me know what you think it is. Why are we, as a watch community, not willing to allow somebody to live out their dream when they know full well that they're never going to have the money to live the actual dream? I mean, a prime example is this. But this is my my Bolivar AccuSwiss with my Value 7750 automatic movement day date complication. Now, The reason I bought this is because a lot of the older guard will remember I fell in love with the IWC Portofino, which they do in this spec with the gold and the black dial and crop strap and so on and so forth. But when I was looking at that, the cheapest I could find it was 11,200 of your finest British pounds. Now, that is then what's separated, as we're aware now, if you've seen any of my old videos, between buying that and buying the Hulk, which I now own. I then saw this, and I'd been aware of this watch for quite a while. And the only difference between the Portofino and this is the case is not solid gold. It's either IP or PDD plate, and I'm not too sure, but whichever it is, it wears just like gold because there is a molecular bond in the gold plating, so it doesn't kind of scratch off as old-fashioned plating does that was just dipped. So this is in effect a replica, or to be more accurate, a homage, and I wear this because I couldn't justify spending the money. So are we solely against replicas, or are we against people being unable to live out their dream? Which one is it? Let me know. Let me know. I think it's a very valid question, this, and I will drop a link down below of my other replica watch video and incorporate your answers in the answer to this one. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching. Sorry I've been away for quite a while. I will be making every effort to do a couple of videos a week now, as long as health holds up. And thank you very much if you've subscribed. I haven't got back to anyone. Again, apologies. And I haven't spoken to any of my usual guys for such a long time. So hope to hear from you soon, and I'll speak to you again. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Spread it around, all that kind of nonsense, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.